G'day guys, Chewie here and welcome back to some more coverage of Warlords of Draenor, where today we're going to have another look at the Warlock, more specifically, the Affliction Warlock. Now the reason why I want to do this video, I know I spoke before of what I was doing to sort of grind up my gear in BGs, but after a couple of weeks of Arena and a new season, well I should say a new week about to start for Conquest very shortly, I guess what I wanted to do was a video on explaining why I'm going to go down the Affliction Warlock path, and the reason for that is I really enjoy the way the DPS is applied, and I found that in order to be a little bit more effective with the DPS, the way I'm going now is to ensure that I have the demonic servitude. And the reason why I went for that is, as great as Soulburn Haunt is with that buff, I'm finding it with my present playstyle and my soul shard management, I should say, is I'm just finding, you know, if you're the Affliction Warlock, you're going to get your curses removed. So I'll talk also about priority, what you should be casting first as well. So I found having that extra buffed up pet really does help a lot. Obviously, one of the drawbacks of having a buffed up pet is it could be a target, but generally I play a lot of 2v2s, and I'm finding I either get trained as the Warlock, I'm usually the #1 target, but of course that really depends on who you're playing with as well, and it depends on who your opponent chooses to go for. And I guess what I want to do in this video is really just talk about what I'm running with at the moment, the changes that I've done with my Warlock, and the reason why I went that way with the skills. So pretty much this is how I'm rolling with it now. Obviously the second tier here, this is situational, guys. I mean, every arena match, depending who you're playing, you might not find Howl of Terror as viable as having Shadow Fury if you were facing perhaps maybe a healer combo and you needed that stun. Whereas if you're playing maybe 2 DPS class and they're both melee, you might really want the Howl of Terror. It could really save your butt, because chances are as a Warlock you're probably going to get trained. As for the next tier here as well, it's very situational. Some of the tiers I won't change and which I prefer and I like to play with, and I encourage you to give it a shot, is always keep on the Dark Regeneration. I don't recommend Soul Leech anymore, only because of the defensive capabilities and a macro that I'm going to be talking about shortly. The next part, I always recommend that you do keep Soul Link, because it is a 20% ability that spreads the damage to your pet. If you're not running a pet and you went for a different tier, then probably Sacrificial Pact is the thing you want to be going for, because that shield is going to help you heaps. Along with going with the Demonic Servitude, I go for the Grimoire of Supremacy, just so I get that Terror Guard, which is just an upgrade of the Doom Guard. He's going to have more damage output for his abilities, and that's what I really want to go for. As I am Affliction, I'm definitely going to want to be having two applications of my Dark Souls, and that is because of the macros that I'm using, which I'll talk about shortly. Now, with the macros, guys, I don't know if you're new to macros or you're not, or you've done it before and you're a seasoned player, and this video probably doesn't apply to you in some ways. But what I've found is they're incredibly helpful. I've never really used many macros until I got into Arena, and I sort of took some advice and I looked into it a bit and had a read. It really is an awesome application, and it really is quite vital if you're getting into Arena, or even the PvP itself, or even PvE. They use macros in some way. Now, what a macro is, I'm sorry to go over what that is, but basically a macro is a series of commands that allows you to do something. So it could be like cast skills, create this, do that, change target, apply fear, etc, etc. But where it really shines is in the application of skills that aren't affected by the global cooldown time. So what that global cooldown time is, guys, is when you cast that ability and you see that sort of winding clock and all these different abilities, that means that they're being affected by that global cooldown clock. Things that aren't reacting to this obviously aren't affected to it, because it's either a profession, but more importantly because it's an application of a special ability, whether it's about survivability, damage output, or using our soul shards. Now, the reason why the macros is important for the Affliction Warlock is really to burst out some of your abilities. I know if you're really good at the Warlock, you probably won't have to, you're really good at your pole management, which I've talked about in some other videos. You probably won't need to rely on so many macros, which I do, but I'm still learning to be a lot better with my Warlock. So the real two major ones that I really would like to get out to you guys is a defensive macro I use with the talents that I specifically really encourage you to keep, which is definitely the Dark Regeneration. And that macro is pretty straightforward. It's basically my defense heal, and I'll talk about when I'll use my defense heal when we jump into a couple of arenas. But basically what it does is it casts Unending Resolve, which gives us that defensive boost, so we're taking less damage. It then casts Dark Regeneration, which gives us a heal over time and also increases the amount of heals we receive over a period. Straight after that, we will then show Tooltip and use our Healthstone. And obviously by empowering your Healthstone with one of your glyphs, you'll get more benefit out of that health stone as well. So basically, if I'm getting hammered pretty hard in arena, and I'm going to endeavour to show you some videos of me putting these skills into practice as well, I will pop that bad boy, and in one click, or one quick key command, I have popped down 3 awesome cooldowns, which is going to give me that little bit more survivability. Now, just as you've seen then, the reason why the health stone didn't get activated, guys, I apologise, is because I actually took no damage. A health stone won't activate if you've taken no damage. So normally, if I were to hit that macro, and you can screenshot this as well, or you can look up the commands yourself, there's many stuff out there, this is the one to go for the defensive heal that I prefer. Obviously, you know, your Blood Horror and your Howl of Terror is pretty situational as you go into your arena. But that's enough talking about that. Let's talk about my offensive capabilities and also pet management, which way I like to go with that. So for my, obviously, offensive macro, there's 2 that I have here. One of them is pretty much casting our Soul Burn and proccing it so we can use Soul Swap. And the reason why I have this here, and I realize it's a double Soul Shard waste, and obviously it could be a dangerous move to do, is it's really good of charging in and applying your dots on a target and then maybe moving to the next or channeling that target, and I really like it. And the second version of this skill is pretty much the same abilities, but I can cast them on my Dark Souls. So to give you an idea of that application of that burst, if you were to select one target, one click of the button for my dot burst with Misery, I would hit that and I've applied all 3 curses. I've lined myself up for my Haunt, and my next ability will be a Quick Drain Soul. Obviously, we're going to get more benefit out of this spell afterwards because we're going to have the higher ticks of our agony. And then basically, obviously, if you're not getting channeled and they may be attacking a different character, you just focus on reapplying those and draining the soul and pushing your DPS up, which isn't too bad over here, around 7k. It's climbing. But let's talk about the pets as well, because it's also about the pets that we use that also assist us, as we're not going for that increase of the damage over time spell buff with Haunt. And the reason why I don't also like to go at this stage is by using Haunt, you know, and with these macros, if I were to use that and do a Haunt, I've pretty much wasted 3 Soul Sarge, and I'm pretty low on my actual shards. I may need to use Haunt at a later stage. So that's why I believe it's a really good application to have your increased demonic servitude. Now, to talk about pets, if you didn't go that way, obviously there's some different pets you can use. You don't really want to be using the Void or the Imp. I mean, the Imp's great, you know, for the ability to free you from a CC, but you've got other spells for that. Really, your Interrupt is key here. Obviously, by summoning your Shivara, she's got the ability there to interrupt and also cast sort of a CC on your opponent, which is sort of the Mesmerize ability. The next pet, which could be very viable, of course, is a summoning Observer if you didn't go the Demonic Servitude path, because it's that consistent damage to the opponent, and a single hit of the ability you can interrupt spellcasting. But if you went for your increase on your Terror Guard, this guy packs a punch in all the areas. What the Terror Guard does is, first of all, his ability is a casting skill, which is a Doom Bolt, which applies a shadow damage, direct damage to the target. On top of that, it deals increased damage when the target is below a certain threshold. Also, for some of the key abilities he has, is he also gives you the ability to Shadow Lock, which is like the Interrupt as well, so a very versatile Interrupt skill that you can use as the Warlock. And finally, he has his own CC, just like the Shibara or the Succubus, that allows him for 4 seconds to root an enemy in place. And really, what this is a great way of saving yourself when you're getting jumped by a rogue in arena. So, going back to that bursting ability, and the reason why I'm talking about this a lot is I like to open up with this in arena. That bursting command that I've casted, which is my dot burst, I've just thrown it down there. I'm going to cast my Haunt, and then I'm going to drain Soul. Obviously, you're going to get more benefit out of this when your Agni is at the 10 procs, and then pretty much, it really is just refreshing my curses. Obviously, this isn't very realistic because it's obviously a training dummy, but, you know, with the full Agony being boosted up, we're hitting over 11k, which is quite sufficient. It will climb up. I'll try to get the gem card off that, sorry guys. You'll probably hit between 11 and 11.8, depending on how you go and if you've got a crit or some other applications hit onto the skill set as well. It can jump up quite fast. I have had a play with a Soul Burn, and I'm really close to that as well. In some ways, the Terror Guard will out DPS that ability when that target gets to that 20% area. So that really is the benefit there. Obviously, the trade-off with going the Doom Guard way, or the Terror Guard with the upgrade that you use, is if the pet dies, you lose a significant part of your DPS. And obviously, you know, you've got to be a bit of a pet awareness, but in 2v2, I find I get channeled pretty bloody hard, so they don't usually focus on the pet too much. They may do a crowd controlling ability, which is a pain in the butt for your pet, but of course it really isn't at the focus point, so that's why I like to keep in there for my abilities. So that really has been a bit of a lowdown on what I'm running now, and specifically a couple of macros that I use to open up with my cursors and to open up with the application of dots. One thing I want to talk about though is priority with your application of your cursors, because obviously with your cursors, guys, they can be removed. So, and all of them can be removed pretty much by a healer. So if you're in 2s or 3s, definitely in 3s there's a high chance as a healer. 2, there's a possibility. There's a lot of double DPS classes, which is the sort of playstyle I like in 2v2. So my recommendation is you can always use this open up for the burst, but really the first curse you want to always be casting on the opponent is the Unstable Affliction, and the reason for that is it's the only curse that, if removed, will cause instant shadow damage to the target. So casting that first, then prioritizing your Agony and Corruption afterwards, and then Haunt, and then moving to your next card is really key. But if there is no healer and no one that has an ability to remove some form of corruption, there is no problem with doing your dot burst. And if you could go all out, I don't recommend it because you may feel a little bit useless with low on soul shards. You could dot burst one, and then with the other macro just apply the simple soul swap and the soul burn and the soul swap to apply the same curses on the other. But really, it's all about that opening, and that's really what I want to talk about in this video, is about those macros and how I opened up, and really why I selected this pet. And it's because he's sort of omnied with all the other pets in terms of abilities. He's got a CC, he's got an interrupt that you have on your cast bar, and more importantly, his damage increases as the opponent gets to a critical point in health. As for the next part I want to talk about, I guess, you know, it's really hard for me to talk in this video without doing some arena on how you should prioritize who you're DPSing. So I think the best way we can talk about this is maybe doing it over a few different videos, and we can talk about that not just on the Warlock but in general. Because usually when you go into a 2v2 match, it's either double DPS, or it's a DPS and a healer, or it might be, you know, like a gladiator warrior spec and a healer. If you're versing anything like a healer class, you really, you know, it really is situational on what type of healer it is, and it's really quite hard for me to go over the generics of which way you'd go. Now, you've seen in some of my other videos when I do my arena matches, we've come up against different series of opponents. So what I'm going to do for my future videos is talk more about why we're going for that class, or why it's a good idea, and what are the trade-offs with doing it. But in general, it is a little bit hard for me to talk about which way to go in terms of who should channel in each match, because it really depends on who you're up against and who you're partnered against. But if you want an easy time and you want to partner up with someone that you want to get some 2v2 experience, I have found the Warlock Paladin is a really great combo at the moment, specifically with Retribution. I seem to be doing, or getting, a lot of experience by playing with Paladins at the present stage, because they have so many ways they can assist with healing and also apply certain buffs to keep you alive through bursting moments. So I hope my little talk today has been pretty informative. I hope my little chat about macros wasn't too boring if you knew a lot about them, but it's really just to talk about how beneficial they are and how you can use them on the field. Obviously, this is the way I like to go for the Warlock. I'm not saying it's the professional way. I'm still learning myself. This is my first season, and I think from what I'm doing now, I'm really having some fun with the build I've created. I hope this video has been of use to you guys, and if you have any further questions, drop me a comment. I'll be looking to make future videos this week as the Conquest is lifted today, and we're going to be doing some arena matches. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.